Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pod TV's #1 do-it-yourself advocate show, Timeshare, Solution or Surrender, with Irene Parker and the Tarda.org team. And I say it that way so that you know how to look them up if you need help. Anyway, we are on episode 107. That's 107 episodes since Irene and I met, and they have made great progress and changing the process of changing laws to improve things so that people are less likely to get scammed in timeshares, but they're also very good at helping you find solutions. And that's one of the things and reasons why I love working with Irene and her team, because they're all about the right solution. Hello, Irene, and welcome.
Hi, it's good to be here, and we're showcasing our new trade name, Timeshare Advocacy and Reform Disclosure Alliance, that we feel better reflects what our goals are, and hopefully improve better communication between timeshare buyers and the developers. And our first guest today is Anne. And she is a fellow Floridian with me, and we're going to hold you in suspense until the end of today's show to ask Anne what all those certificates are behind her. Because I know when our other producer, Mark, he usually pops in, that's the first thing. He's very observant. We also have with us today Deborah in Wisconsin.
Yes.
And we're happy to have, she's kind of struggling today with some health issues, so we're glad that you were able to make it today. And I'm always afraid I'm going to forget, and so I want to start right off by showcasing our timeshare resource library. There's 10 little snippets of past shows. So we did 86-hour-long episodes, and it was pretty exhausting, and juggling 3 to 5 guests every week is not easy. But we also want to showcase the Timeshare Transparency Act introduced by Senator John Curtis of Utah and Senator Adam Schiff of California, with a second co-sponsor, Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee. There's also a House companion bill introduced by Congressman Glenn Thompson of Pennsylvania, and Florida Congresswoman Kathy Castor in the St. Petersburg area. And we are proud to say that there are 3 co-sponsors for the House bill, and one of them, one of our volunteers, had something to do with that. So everybody can make a difference, and that's what this show is about. Now we have both. It doesn't always line up this way, but we both have Holiday Inn Club Vacation buyers with us today, both Anne and Deborah, and we have been pounding the table along with Timeshare Users Group that it is not necessary to pay any third party. Once in a while, if people don't have the time and temperament, or there's an unusual situation, we will refer to a law firm. We don't maintain a list of lawyers because every law firm has a different personality. But Anne reached out to an exit company. She's going to share what happened with that, and we were able to save Anne $8,000. And last week, we in a few days before the show, it added up to 26,000, and that people would have spent for nothing, because they are do-it-yourself, just like we promote. And we also have the timeshare industry lobby is the American Resort Development Association, ARDA, with their claim that it doesn't have to be difficult, expensive, or time consuming to exit a timeshare. Well, you know, that's not what we're hearing from almost once in a while. It may be. So we're going to start with Anne. And Anne, my first question is, did you reach out to Holiday Inn seeking an exit, or before you spoke to the exit company, or did you reach out to the exit company through a Facebook ad or a website posting or something?
It was a website posting for a lawyer group, and I reached out to them before I went to Holiday Inn. And what turned us off to the presentation, which was a real, how can I put it, trying to be classy deal, you know, here we'll give you a dinner. Well, it was a little, you know, ham sandwich and a bag of chips, that kind of thing. And they evaluated each and every contract. They asked you to bring your contract, and then they determined the value of you getting out of that contract by the value that they determined your contract was, which just didn't seem right to me. But I guess they wanted to see if people had loans or didn't. We didn't have loans. And they wanted $8,000, and that's when we walked out the door. And we said, no, not paying $8,000.
Now, why did you not call Holiday Inn before you attended that?
Because I thought this was the way to go. I thought this is what you had to do. You had to contact an attorney because of the complications that Holiday Inn presents whenever you discuss anything that they don't want to hear. Like I'm leaving, or I need money, or blah, blah, blah. So I ended up going to that presentation, and then I called Holiday Inn all the way back in February. Was my first call. I saw my notes all the way back in February, asking them about how to go about things. And then I got in contact with you through the Tarda site, and got in contact with you, Irene, and learned a whole lot. Got back in touch with Horizons after multiple calls, because the Horizon office opens at 9 in the morning and is open till 3 in the afternoon. But if you call anytime after 10:30 or 10:45, they'll say our calls are full and you got to call tomorrow. We're not taking any more calls.
Well, there's a couple things you mentioned though. When you say attorneys don't do dinner roadshows. Was this one of these attorney-backed?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a big, huge difference. You think you're being represented by an attorney, but you are not. And I mentioned last week, Hour Among Thieves, this one exit company that uses scare tactics as well, warned about these attorney-backed. You're not represented by them, so it's still do-it-yourself. We had one that's been sued by Wyndham and Capital Vacations, where she sent the do-it-yourself letter and it was ignored. And then May 31, their attorney affiliated with them sent it, and it was ignored because the developers know which attorneys are associated with exit companies. And the attorneys, if we do refer to an attorney, it's never anyone that has anything to do with an exit company. Now, you had mentioned earlier before this show that you had a week and then you bought points. Can you just give us a little bit about if you were happy with that decision, or would you have rather have kept your week?
I would rather have kept the week, because the value of the points that equated to that week, that the Holiday Inn system changed. They wouldn't allow you to keep weeks. They wanted everything to go to points. The value of the points per year decreased exponentially. So in other words, if they told you your week was worth 100,000 points a year, next year it was worth 85. The next year it was worth 75. The next year it was worth, it just kept decreasing. And the number of points that you needed to buy kept going up exponentially in cost. So the value decreased, but the cost increased,
Mhm.
which made absolutely no sense. Um, and we were quote unquote signature members, which meant that we should have gotten higher quality rooms and et cetera. I think we got that once in the last 6 years.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, in the last 6 years.
And what did you pay Holiday Inn, and when did you pay them?
Oh, let me think. Probably,
Wasn't it April?
yeah. I pay from the Horizons program. I pay them in
Uh-huh.
April. I paid them $1,200 in April. I have been calling every 2 weeks since then. I've gotten some responses, but let me look at my notes here. Since May 13th, when the title search was completed, I've called them every 2 weeks to get the documents in that we need to sign and have notarized and send back to them via FedEx. And they keep saying they're backlogged and your documents are prepared, but they're just not ready to be sent out yet.
Well, and isn't it funny that there's no shortage of people selling timeshares? And
Mm.
just last week, someone said that they uh, were approved for Hilton's transition program,
Mm.
and they've been calling. They finally got a hold of them, and they applied in December of 2025, and then they said when she finally got a hold of them, they said, "Oh, we're working on October and November." So, as far as it being, so then
Mm.
we'll wait and see. And we have you had 188,000. Now, the um, and one of the provisions of the Timeshare Transparency Act, again, is to provide clear documented options to exit at ownership. So if we have Hilton that Diamond Resorts was charging 1,000 per contract. Hilton bought Diamond and Blue Green and adopted Blue Green's policy of 18 months of maintenance fees. So now instead of someone with 3 contracts who's been on our show, they're asking instead of 3,000, 30,200
Mm.
to take the point. Nobody would have bought the timeshare if they had known that. Well, and so we'll be on the edge of our seats waiting to hear when you've got Holiday Inn in your rear view mirror, but we've learned from Deborah when she reached out to Holiday Inn that she unfortunately has a loan, and Holiday Inn I think they told you they offer no medical hardship, right?
Nothing.
So
No.
how long have you owned the points, and did you use them?
No, I lost 300,000 points because I've had a lot of medical issues. So last November, I had to stop paying because a dog ran me over at the dog park, flipped me over. I broke all 3 bones in my ankle and I couldn't work. I had surgery and plates and screws and everything. So I wasn't able to work. So I called Holiday, Inn and asked them if there was a medical hardship because I had had a stroke and all this stuff. They said there was nothing. So I had to stop in November paying. And I
And then
only have a loan on it.
I read just recently, for some reason, I got an email from Reddit, and people have been when you reach out to tarda.org, it says, "How did you find us?" And I think once or twice a month somebody says Reddit, but I didn't know anything about Reddit, and I started getting an email about it. And they said that if you stop payments, your credit score can go down
Yep.
about 200 points.
Yep.
And
Mine
has it been
dropped.
coming up at all?
Mine dropped about 200 points.
Ooh.
Yep, yep. And people ask about maintenance fees too. And the worst we've heard is 50 to 60 points.
Oh, okay.
But we follow. Now, I can't believe they didn't have any
Nothing.
specs. So the thing is, if you had anybody, oh, I know what I forgot. My mind went in another direction. But the person posted it on Reddit why don't people just learn to use the points and make the best of it? I'd say about 75% of the people that reach out to Tarda, and not just older people, have suffered an adverse event or have uh, medical problems.
Mhm.
And if you have a loan, unlike a car or a house,
Yeah.
which you could sell, you're just stuck.
Well, yes, and even though I had 300,000 points, because I missed a payment, I wasn't allowed to book to even use those points. Even the 150,000 that I had already paid for, I wasn't allowed to use them because I had missed a point.
Yeah,
Plus,
and you
even if you
That
have
is
the
payment.
points, you can't always get what your life is
Exactly.
available for.
Nope,
And
you
you know
can't.
what I mean? You might want this week or this week or this week or this time,
Yep.
and your points aren't. They say, "Oh, we don't have anything available."
hmm And
But
my
yet,
ex,
it's listed. You could rent it online. And you could rent the hotel room in the same place.
yeah. Well, and October 7th was my accident. So I called because sometimes every year they advertise at the Holiday and Club Vacation that you can take your points and convert them over to hotel points at the Holiday
IHG
Inn.
points, right? Mhm.
Yep. But my accident was on October 7th. And by the time I got out of the hospital the next week and called them, oh, sorry, you had to do it by October 1st. You had to switch them over. So then I just lost to them that I paid for those.
And you pay for transferring your points over
Yeah,
to
you pay,
IHG.
yeah, you have to pay 100 and some dollars even just to transfer your points. It's a lot.
So the
well, and
maintenance
I
fees going up every year
Yeah.
also are a great way to get more cash flow
Yep.
into a Holiday Inn, and that's been going up almost exponentially every year.
Yes.
Yeah, but there's still, there are a lot of people when people, I heard someone else that is really regretting that they had a Wyndham deed and they have
Mhm.
points. And he said, well, I looked online and there was all these negative comments. And so I sent him two links, one to the unhappy Wyndham owners website with 5,500, and then the other link to the happy Wyndham owners, 55,000. So it works for some people, but
Mhm.
the Indians say don't judge your neighbor until you've walked a mile in their shoes. And these
Yep.
people are saying, oh, it's just not fair to the others when you don't pay your maintenance fees. And yet the statement from ARDA that it doesn't have to be difficult, expensive, or time consuming is just pretty out of touch.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
And
the biggest line I've ever heard. Who ever heard of trying to get documents from over 3 months and the title search is already cleared? Imagine if a mortgage company worked that way.
Yeah.
yeah, and Deborah, you bought twice, okay? And why did you upgrade, and was that worth it?
So no, it was not worth it. So I had 50,000 points originally, and of course I booked a vacation, and then they lock you into a 90-minute, presentation even after you buy.
Mhm.
And so I had already had a trip booked 2 years ago with all of my grandkids, and then before that trip, I had a stroke, and I was in the hospital, and but the trip was already booked for 2 months later, and all the grandkids were excited. So I went on the trip, and I sat through the 90-minute thing, and I told them, I said, I had a stroke. I'm not really thinking that clearly yet. It takes a few months to get over that. And they just pushed and pushed and pushed. And then they said, well, you're not going to be able to get anything with those 50,000 points. You have to have at least 150,000. And if you do the 150,000, you're going to have so many more choices opened up to you. And they just pushed and pushed. It's like I almost didn't have a choice to say no. Um, Now that, past me having the stroke, obviously I knew there was a choice, but it was just like they're pushing and pushing and pushing. And I feel like they shouldn't have, because they knew I had just had a stroke 2 months ago, and they don't take that into consideration. They
Well,
just
and
want,
so the reason you agreed to buy is because what you had you felt was worthless.
they told me it was worthless.
Okay, and
Holiday and
I
Club
want to,
Vacation.
yeah, we had two people that went to a presentation at Holiday Inn, and they both had 100,000 points.
Yeah.
And the 100,000 points, they were told at an update wasn't worth it. They were, they couldn't book anything. So
Yeah.
they filed complaints with the attorney generals, and the response was a 6-page response saying how easy it was and what they could book. And so when I listened to you, it kind of reminded me of a 3-card Monty. And
Yes.
Kimberly, it looks like we're all frozen here. Can
Oh,
you hear me?
Yeah,
yep. I can see all the movement.
yeah, I can see it.
Okay, for some reason I'm frozen here.
Hmm.
So so Anne, you are just waiting now to get these documents in the mail that need to be
4 months.
notarized. And
4 months.
oh, Deborah, I forgot to ask you, are you getting collection calls and written correspondence from Holiday Inn,
I
or
am.
you stopped paying in November of 2025, so it takes a while before it gets turned over to a collection agency? Are you getting a lot of calls or correspondence?
I am getting a not the calls have slowed down, but I got a letter, I think it was last week, I think offering me a deed in lieu. And so I was supposed to email them with my answer. And I emailed them back and I said I would love to learn more about that.
Well,
So
you
they have,
should follow up with a phone call and stay
okay.
on top of that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so there's been, they don't always say deed in lieu. Someone just posted, I think it was Westgate, that they called it a mediation
Oh,
where you would be relieved of your obligation. But a deed in lieu means in lieu of means instead of.
yeah.
And so once you do a deed in lieu of foreclosure, your credit score, it's still affected, but it's not as affected as badly.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm not sure. Kimberly, did you defaulted on your loan payments for a while too, didn't you?
Well, I wouldn't consider it defaulted, but because they had sent me a settlement. So when I received the settlement, I followed all the instructions that day and sent everything back to them. And they were supposed to have everything closed in 30 days. They were supposed to have everything settled in 30 days. And it took them another year. So I
Mm.
made the choice of not making payments on the grounds that I thought it was all settled. So it did, like they said, it went into default, but it really, there wasn't a default to go into because I had signed the contract to settle. Everything was supposed to settle. They were supposed to give me the refund, cancel all the debt, but they kept sending me bills. So,
Well,
yeah,
and we're glad you paid it forward with this show, but Kim, because my screen is frozen, I'm frozen, the time is frozen as well, and I want to make sure before we
I
leave
hear you
that
just fine.
I know,
You're
but I don't know how much time is left on the show, and I want to
oh,
make sure
so
we
we've
get to
got,
8. How much time?
yeah, we've got about a few minutes, 3 minutes. So,
Okay, let's
um,
go to Anne, and I'm hoping Mark will hop in here because he always inspects the walls behind people and knickknacks they may have hanging around. Anne, could you go ahead and tell us what your Wall of Fame is about?
My small wall of fame is about driving NASCAR at the Daytona 500 from the Richard Petty School of Driving,
nice.
and got to do 5 very expensive laps at Daytona, one with a ride along and one by myself.
Hmm.
And I made it to 146 miles an hour. And it was exhilarating and terrifying and probably one of the most funnest things I've ever done. Your car is transponded, so they can shut you down at any time where you seem to be in trouble. And
Hmm.
all the women in my class did really well, and half of the men got transponded. Their car got shut off because they weren't following the rules.
Uh-oh.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I got to meet Kyle Petty, and we really, it was just a lot of fun.
How
How
Mhm.
many
much
times
fun is
did you
that?
race?
He went 2 sessions, one with 5 laps, one with 8 laps, and you paid for the school by the laps, by how many laps you wanted to do.
So did you win?
Well, it wasn't a win. It was just the thrill of doing, learning how to do it, get the fire suit on, put the whole thing, get the Hans device, the whole 9 yards. It
And,
was
and what
fascinating.
made you decide to do that? Just a race car fan?
I've been a race car fan, and I wanted to see what that kind of speed was all about and how it felt, and it's exhilarating. It's exhilarating. You are so laser focused. Everything is blur. I have such respect for drivers now. I just can't even imagine how they're athletes. They're athletes.
And when did you?
lived in race car country here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I mean, I'm in Raleigh now, but
You know
I
what
used
I'm
to
talking about.
babysit for the drivers. I used to, yeah. So it's insane. The speed, just over 120 telephone poles look like corduroy. So,
And they drive 180, 190,
yeah,
and they're this far apart.
I know. And at any moment you can give out and go into a wall or anything. I mean, it's
It's
aside from exhilarating, the risks are very, very intense. So
yeah, and you have 5G forces on you all the time when you're going that speed. So anyhow, that's my mini claim to fame.
Well, thank
That's
you
that
for
awesome.
is
sharing.
what an experience. Probably the thrill is not so much with timeshares, right? Just as much risk, but anyway, we're at the top of the hour. Irene, you have anything you want to say?
No, just thank you and Nick and Mark, and especially you, Kim, for being a co-host and a producer of Pod TV.
Well, we appreciate everyone coming on and sharing their stories. Thank you, man. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Until next week at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when we try to share as many stories as we can and give some solutions. Everyone take care and stay
Thank
out of
you.
this intense heat. Okay.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.